morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are in the world. And thanks for tuning in to this QIND vodcast. My name is JP Backwell, CEO of QualityIndustrialCorp, or QIND. And today's vodcast is specifically focused on the progress and plans of our company related to our intended uplisting to the New York Stock Exchange American. So I'm going to dive right into it. I think firstly, by now, many of you would have noted that today we filed an 8K with 3 material announcements. I'll clarify these briefly, as I think they're all important towards our progress and our strategy, and they of course impact on the success of our company on a national stock exchange, and they link into our filing of our S1, which I'll be coming to in the course of this video. So firstly, we filed an amendment to the share purchase agreement with our acquisition Quality International. Now, the board of QI unanimously supports the uplisting of QIND, and they see it as an integral component of the success of QI's operations and its expansion. So therefore, together, we agreed to the revised payment amounts, which are achievable with the support of our investment bank and our capital markets advisors. And simultaneously, we're also assisting QI with the operational financing requirements, given that the large amount of purchase orders that the company has in production and in hand requires the likes of guarantees, performance guarantees and performance bonds. There's a huge amount of raw material purchases and supplies, so it's understandable that a lot of working capital is required for the business as it expands. And we are, of course, assisting with that. And then related also to the 8K, some of you may have noticed that we recently updated the business description of QIND. And that's because we're really focusing hard on the expansion of Quality International, given that it has the existing capacity to grow to over a $600 million per year business, especially with the addition of its new waterfront facility and its existing facilities. And due to the increasing demand for infrastructure from not only the oil and gas sector, but also the wider energy sector, and that's very important. QI also manufactures the likes of hydrogen storage tanks and wind power plants, and that's a massive growth area for the company, given that there are very few certified manufacturers globally for this type of heavy engineering equipment. And QI has the ability to manufacture that all in-house and ship it from its own waterfront yard to anywhere in the world. So, it's very clear to us that with so much potential in hand, our focus should be on the expansion of our existing business. And this business plan is strongly supported by our capital markets advisors and our investment bank, having themselves seen the ability and growth potential of the current business. So, therefore, we've aligned our business description in that we are not currently focusing on being a mergers and acquisitions company, but we are focused on the operation and expansion of our existing business. It doesn't mean that we won't conduct acquisitions in the relatively near future, as there are, actually a couple which we can take forward, but it simply means that our current focus is on strengthening the existing business, delivering the current order book, and ensuring that we have that additional capacity, and very importantly, the financial wherewithal to win and deliver the huge manufacturing contracts for the renewables and the utility sectors. So, I think it's important to mention that, because this alignment of our business to focus on these key growth areas is a very important reason why we chose not to continue with Petroline in the QIND stable, especially after a fire more or less decimated the facility, and its operations have been at a standstill at the refinery for many months now. So we've mutually cancelled the share purchase agreement, and I'm in discussions with the shareholders about a new deal which takes into consideration the current status of operations. Due to the fire, we never closed the deal with Petroline, and therefore we did not consolidate their financials, and mutual termination of the current deal has zero impact on our financial results. And from a personal viewpoint, as someone who focuses on aggressive growth and increased profitability, we really can't be babysitting a business which has stalled operations. For me, it's just as simple as that. So we were also advised by our counsel and our capital markets advisors, who are the real experts in the sphere, that this was the smoothest route forward for QIND's operations, and that the reduced complexity in the business would aid our S1 effectiveness. And we all know that's obviously integral to our intended NYSE uplist. And then also, as per the 8K, you will note that QIND has changed its fiscal year end to June the 30th. The main reason for doing this is that a full year of audited financials from the point that control of QIND was obtained is required by any national exchange, whether it's Nasdaq or the NYC, in our case, the NYC, and therefore this change in fiscal year needed to be completed. So as you can see, there's a lot of structuring that has been taking place, and this has been done on the advice from our capital markets advisors and our counsel, and it's also supported by our investment bank. So, I have to stress that every step we take as a business has been and is being advised by a team that have gone through this process on literally hundreds of occasions successfully. These guys have rung the bell on Wall Street so many times, and they are adamant that all the structuring, not just the fiscal year change, but all the changes are necessary for a smooth uplisting, and very importantly, for heightened demand from institutional investors and from retail, not just in the final stages leading up to and during the uplist, but of course also after. So the point here is that we act on the advice of experts, and we're very fortunate, in my opinion, to have the absolute best on Wall Street guiding us. So, with that in mind, let me update you on the S1. The S1, which we prepared 3 weeks ago, and it is finalized. And it's why we sent it off for Edgarization earlier this week. Now, we always knew about the change in fiscal year, but initially, following discussions with our counsel and our advisors, we actually planned to file the S1 immediately. And then in parallel, while the S1 was going through its review, we planned to change the fiscal year. However, following discussions with our counsel and advisors this week, we've agreed that the more optimal approach will be to do the fiscal year change now, as we've just done, and then update the financials accordingly before filing the S1. Now, I imagine that there are several questions, but the first question might be, why not file the S1 as planned and do the other changes thereafter? And the answer is, if we did what we initially planned, which was to update the financials during the S1 process, we would potentially have 2 reviews of our financials, which, as advised by our counsel and our listing advisors, would slow down the effectiveness of the S1. Remember that filing the S1 is not the achievement here. Effectiveness of the S1 is what really matters. So recently, our counsel has also seen that many S1s have actually gone through without any comments. And that might sound really positive, but for us in our situation, that actually means changing our fiscal year after filing the S1 could be detrimental to foster effectiveness, and that would delay our uplisting. So for me personally, I'm far more confident going with this process and in our ability to get this uplist done successfully as a result of it. And then another question might be, why did you not do it like this in the first place? And the answer is, yeah, the S1 could be filed now, but it was deemed by our team of experts that this is the route we should follow. And this is all based on the latest developments in the market, such as S1s clearing comments quickly, the timing of the roadshow, and the appetite from institutional investors around that timing, and so many interlinked factors, even down to practicalities like, when people return from summer vacations and things like that. And then, of course, the all-important third question will be, based on not filing the S1 right now, what is the updated timeline for QIND's uplist? And so to help with that, let me provide our roadmap for the next few weeks. Firstly, we aim to file our 10Q before August the 15th, even though technically this is not needed given our change in fiscal year. However, we obviously want to keep our investors up to date on our progress, and so the 10Q is important in that respect. Secondly, we plan to file our required transition reports on Form 10KT, which will have the required audited financials, and we aim to do this as soon as possible after the 10Q, given that that required audit process is actually already underway. Now, bear in mind that this transition report would be necessary even if we filed the S1 now, and we're just choosing to do it before filing the S1 as per the guidance of our counsel and our advisors. And then once the S1 comments are cleared, we will then make an announcement to confirm the clearance of comments, following which we will commence our roadshow, where we'll be working with our investment bank to do in the region of 200 presentations to institutional investors and also some retail over roughly a 2-week period. Now, we would expect that this should drive up demand, of course, prior to the uplist. Understandably, there's a few more processes along the way, but that more or less provides the key points along the roadmap for the next few weeks. So I'd say based on the estimated time frame for completion of each of these steps, we would aim for the uplisting to take place around mid to late October. It's possible that it could take longer. It's also possible, but probably not likely, that it could happen quicker. And I must stress that there's also no guarantees that we'll be able to be successful in uplisting QIND to the NYSE American. However, the process we're following, we have been advised, is the best route towards a successful uplisting. Of course, I understand that this process is taking longer than we originally anticipated. And I know it's frustrating for shareholders. We too are shareholders with a huge amount, if not arguably the largest amount at stake in all of this. So of course we find that everything which takes longer is frustrating. The reality, and I know this will not be understood by some, or perhaps even many, is that doing things this way should ensure a successful uplisting. Again, I remind you that our goal is not simply an uplisting, but a successful uplisting. And a successful uplisting means that it leads to the expansion and the long-term success of the business. So uplisting itself is one of several criteria that we need to achieve for that growth to be obtained and sustained. And I would say that we're now the most steadfastly on track than we've ever been for the uplisting of QIND. So just as I start to conclude, it's no doubt been a very intense last few months in the life of the QIND business, where there's been some solid progress, and as a result, we anticipate a particularly strong Q4, given the purchase orders in production and the delivery schedules. We are also in the process of appointing and seconding a new CFO into Quality International itself to lead the company's finances, which is a very important development given the many challenges that the company faces with so many projects on the go. And then in QIND, we've also been conducting interviews for a US-based CFO to start upon uplisting. We always intended for our current CFO, who is based in Dubai, to be the regional CFO who would later report into the global CFO. So that process is all underway. And finally, we're also in discussions with several candidates for the QIND board, as is necessary for the NYSE American. So as you can imagine, also with an audit on the go, we're very busy, and we're looking forward to surging through the next few weeks before moving on to our next stage as a company. So, thank you for your time. In closing, we'll do another vodcast just prior to or around the time of the S1 filing. I know Nick in particular will be giving or updating, should I say, on various aspects of importance for shareholders, linking over also to the ILUS side of things as well. And yeah, that's it from me. As I said, appreciate your time. I hope I provided some clarity for you. I, of course, thank you for your continued support, and I wish you a good weekend. Bye for now.